Attend the world's best business workshop led by America's #1 business coach for free by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us an objective review. Claim your tickets by emailing us proof that you did it and your contact information to info@thrivetimeshow.com.
All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. And today we're talking about a very serious subject in the game of business that very few people think about at all. It's like a super serious, game-changing, probably business-destroying concept if you don't adhere to this idea, this proven system, is if you don't have a checklist for everything, everything falls apart. So I'm going to give you an example. There is a book, I want to make sure we put this on the show notes here. It is called The Checklist Manifesto. So I want to make sure we put this on the show notes. We'll put a link to the Checklist Manifesto so you can buy it on Amazon if you would like to. If you haven't read the book, you absolutely, I think that when you read probably half of the book, even a third of the book, you would say to yourself, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I've been trying to run a business without checklists. What happens is the Checklist Manifesto was a book written by an author by the name of Atul Gawande. He's an American surgeon over at Harvard University. Harvard. He's sort of a big deal. And he decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to travel around the world to hospitals, and I'm going to find out what percentage of the deaths that are occurring, are happening as a result of somebody not using a checklist. That's what I'm going to do. And so as he went from hospital to hospital, he found, Chup, that in certain hospitals, one-third
Jeez.
of the people that died as a result of somebody not using a basic checklist. Now, do you want to hear the big 3 reasons why people died?
I don't, but I will listen because it freaks me out.
Okay. One is that the doctor did not read your chart and gave you a pain medication. Like if they have to knock you out, if you have to go to sleep when they have the surgery.
Anesthesiologist, is that what it's called?
Right.
Yeah.
If they give you the wrong medication that you're allergic to, you will die. That's one.
That's real. That is real.
That's
real right there.
The second is they forgot to wash their own hands. So they, as a doctor, had an infection that they put into your body because they opened up your flesh.
Okay, homie. You don't want to wash. You don't want to wash while you're eating. That's up to you. But you got to wash your. I think it's a whole thing, scrubbing in, right?
Right.
How do they forget that?
A third is they forgot to wash the patient's skin. So what he said is he wrote down his findings, and I would like for you, Chup, to read his findings. But read his findings. Read his first notable quote. We'll read it nice and slow so we can soak in, because this is we're talking about deaths that are occurring in hospitals. Planes that are crashing in the world of small business, small aircraft, personal people are dying as a result of their small aircraft crashing as a result of not doing ongoing maintenance. We're talking about small business owners dropping the ball and ruining the foundation on homes because they forgot to follow a checklist. Right. We're talking about companies going bankrupt because they forgot to invoice somebody. We're talking about people getting in trouble with the Unemployment Commission for forgetting to withhold taxes. Chup, there's got to be something really going on when people are refusing to use a checklist. There's got to be something deep going on. What does Atul Gawande have to say about
Atul has to say, we don't like checklists. They can be painstaking.
Oh, come on.
They're not much fun. But I don't think the issue here is mere laziness.
I think it is, but let's let Atul continue.
Okay. There's something deeper, more visceral going on when people walk away not only from saving lives, but from making money. Okay. It somehow feels beneath us to use a checklist, an embarrassment. It runs counter to deeply held beliefs about how the truly great among us, those we aspire to be, handle situations of high stakes and complexity. The truly great are daring. They improvise. They do not have protocols and checklists. Maybe our idea of heroism needs updating.
I would just say this, that if you are refusing to use a checklist, in the Bible, it reads, God blesses the hands of the diligent, right? Proverbs 10:4. I want to put that on the show notes there, Chup, so everyone can see Proverbs 10:4, because a lot of people don't maybe they're a Christian, but they haven't really delved into the book of Proverbs. But I'm going to read you Proverbs 10:4, the King James version. And Chuck, I'd like to put the King James version on there because I feel like this one it resonates it always motivates me to use a checklist. Whenever I feel the need to not use the checklist, I decide to read Proverbs 10:4, the King James version, and it always motivates me. It says,
resonators,
it says, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich." Again, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. What it's saying is, if you refuse to use a checklist, you deserve to be poor. This is Chop. If you refuse to use a checklist, you deserve to lose.
What is going to happen no matter what? Okay, I see this a lot. I saw this in my own family with the concrete company that we had. My dad intrinsically knew everything and would not forget anything ever because he did it every day for 35 years. Well, guess what happens when he's not in charge of every crew that we have going out anymore because we've grown beyond that capacity? The guys that have been doing these jobs for 15, 20 years forget key essential pieces of equipment like a rod board that you use to strike off the concrete when you're pouring it. And therefore, we lose $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 worth of concrete and productivity because of one simple thing of not using a checklist to make sure you have all of the equipment.
Now, 1 Timothy 5:8, which was also in that controversial book called the Bible, this verse is pretty terrible for people that are slackers. And I actually texted this to a guy the other day. Ooh. You know why I did it?
You needed to.
Because he was like absolutely criticizing. He was criticizing a client of ours. It was hilarious. This guy was criticizing a client of ours for being so intense.
Come on.
He's like, all you care about is getting stuff done. So the client says, I have a vendor that's criticizing me for wanting tight deadlines. And he was criticizing me, saying it's not all about the money. It's not all about the money, okay? There's more to life than just the money. You need to calm down. And I said, send him this text message. And if you send him this text message, I promise you won't get a response. Or if you do, it'll be kind of over. Chup, can you read 1 Timothy 5:8?
Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
So I want you to think about this. In the Bible, it says that if you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, you get to go to heaven, correct?
Correct.
And so it says that if you don't, then God will judge you and you basically get to go to hell if God judges that you should go to hell, right?
Right.
So it's saying here that you're worse. Like this means that you go to a hell that's extra hot.
It's the basement of hell.
If you choose not to provide for your family. He says, 1 Timothy 5:8, I'm not paraphrasing, I'm reading it word for word. Anyone who does not provide for the relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So I would just encourage you, I honestly do not use checklists because I'm motivated to. It's because I don't want to literally go to hell. I literally do not want to go to hell. It seems like you have some insecurity problems. Absolutely. I don't want to not provide for my family and screw up. So I use checklists. If you don't want to use a checklist, there's something psychologically wrong with you. You've got to use checklists. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Thrivetime Show on Talk Radio 1170.
It's the Thrivetime Show on the radio. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. It's all about you. 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 Yeah. So we bring the boom.
All right, Thrive Nation, what we're talking about today is the importance of creating a checklist for everything in your life.
Everything.
And in your business. I've got a lot of notable quotables to read to you and a lot of facts, a lot of data, but I have one thing I would encourage all of our listeners to do. I would encourage all of our listeners to buy the book Checklist Manifesto and read the first half of the book at least, and just see after reading the first half of the book if there's any way possible that you are not going to use checklists moving forward. Because this is what happens is, Atul Gawande, he is he's very well known American surgeon. He's a guy who works with Harvard. He's their professor of surgery at Harvard University, okay? And he was noticing, Chup, that a lot of people were dying in hospitals. And he thought, I'm sure it's a result of, just people dying. There's some things you can't solve. There's surgeries that just don't go well. You just can't win all the time.
It's part of the game.
So he thought, what I'm going to do? I'm going to go in there and I'm going to investigate thousands of people at some of the biggest hospitals in the world, thousands of doctors. I'm going to just study the causes of death. And they found that 1/3 of all of the deaths that were occurring were happening as a result of a doctor, a surgeon, choosing not to use a checklist.
Come on.
And you know what the 3 things they were missing were? If you're just tuning in.
Freak me out. Go ahead. Freak me out.
They didn't read your chart ahead of time.
Almost happened to me.
So they actually removed the wrong part of the body. They amputated the wrong leg, had surgery on the wrong knee.
What happened to me. What happened to me. Yep. They almost, I tore my left ACL in high school, and I went in to have surgery at 15 years old, and they're giving me the anesthesia, and I look down, and they're shaving my right leg.
No.
And I'm going, no. No. And they look at the chart.
Oh.
Switch over. So
I'm telling you.
They took out a Sharpie and put a big X on my right knee to say, this is not the one.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And I know many people in my life. I have one person in my family who they gave them the wrong anesthesia.
Yeah.
Almost killed them.
Yeah.
Can
easily happen.
I know that my grandfather died as a result of them skipping the checklist at the VA hospital. He was in perfect health. He went in for knee surgery, and they forgot to give him something, and he died. And they apologized.
Well, yeah, thanks.
We got an American flag because he served in the military.
Cool.
They said, hey, we're sorry. They said, hey, we did our best. I mean, I remember.
No, you didn't.
So again, now maybe that's not motivating enough. So please read the notable quotable again at the top of the show notes from Atul Gawande.
So he says, we don't like checklists. They can be painstaking. They're not much fun. But I don't think the issue.
Who the hell cares?
Right.
When have we decided to have fun or not?
Right.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
You know what else isn't fun?
What?
A lot of things at work.
I think it's so ridiculous. I see so many business owners that are absolutely putting their life in the crapper as a result of not using a freaking checklist. Use a checklist. Continue.
Okay. Ooh, passion got me, scared me there for a minute.
Sorry.
I was looking the other way. Ooh.
Sorry.
Ooh, okay.
Back.
But he continues to say, but I don't think the issue here is mere laziness. Clay might disagree. There's something deeper, more visceral going on when people walk away, not only from saving lives, but from making money.
It's called you being an ass. Back to you.
Right. It somehow feels beneath us to use a checklist and embarrassment. It runs counter to
because you're an idiot. Continue.
It runs counter to deeply held beliefs about how the truly great among us, those who we aspire to be, handle situations of high stakes and complexity. The truly great are daring. They improvise. They do not have protocols and checklists. But, he says, maybe our idea of heroism needs updating.
And the Bible piles on, though. The Bible, Proverbs 10:4 says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. Slack meaning a slacker, meaning you're choosing to slack. You're choosing to not do what you're supposed to do. You see, the word diligence means the consistent application of effort. And if you refuse to follow a checklist after you know the importance of doing it, there is a problem with you. And the cool deal, here's the deal. This is so cool. This is so cool. This part is so cool.
Like the other side of the pillow, my babies.
This is cool. Because what happens is, if I'm competing with you and you're not using a checklist and I am, you see, I get to take all the money because, you see, you get to be poor. It's actually a universal law that God created. And
no checklist equals checkmate. It's over, baby.
You don't sow the seeds, but I do. I get a harvest and you don't. And 1 Timothy 5:8 reads, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Is that from the Bible? What verse was that again? 1 Timothy 5:8. Why are you saying it so slow? Because I want you to look it up. 1 Timothy 5:8. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, especially for their household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Chup, we have another notable quotable from Atul Gawande. Please read on.
All right, he says, there are good checklists and bad, Borman explained. Bad checklists are vague and imprecise. They are too long, they're hard to use, and they're impractical. They are made by desk jockeys with no awareness of the situations in which they are to be deployed. They treat the people using the tools as dumb and try to spell out every single step. They turn people's brains off rather than turn them on. Now, he says, on the other hand, a good checklist are precise. They are efficient, to the point, and easy to use even in the most difficult situations. They do not try to spell out everything. A checklist cannot fly a plane. I want to repeat that. A checklist cannot fly a plane. Instead, they provide reminders of only the most critical and important steps, the ones that even the highly skilled professionals using them could miss. Good checklists are, above all, practical.
This is the thing. A lot of people say, my line of work, though, baby, it is so complex.
There's so much stuff
that I can't possibly use a checklist. I'm a genius, man. I went to school for so long. Chuck, but Atul Gawande chimes in. What does he say here?
He says, it is common to misconceive how checklists function in complex lines of work.
Ooh.
They are not comprehensive how-to guides,
Yes.
whether for building a skyscraper or getting a plane out of trouble. They are quick and simple tools aimed to buttress the skills of expert professionals. And by remaining swift and usable and resolutely modest, they are saving thousands upon thousands of lives.
So these are the checklists that you need to make with your business coach. You need to create the daily opening the business checklist, a checklist for opening your business. These are the things that need to happen every day to open the business.
Unlock the door, turn on the lights.
Now here are the checklists for closing the day of business.
Lock the door, turn off the lights.
These are all things. But you have to do it because if not, people will forget a step.
Yes, every time.
And then you have to create move number 3. Remember, move number 1, create a daily checklist for opening the business. Move number 2, create the daily checklist for closing the business. Move number 3, create the daily checklist for marketing activities. Create the daily marketing activities checklist. Chuck, why do you have to create a checklist for your marketing activities?
So you don't forget to do it?
Like putting out the signs in front of the store.
Call the leads.
Call the leads is
kind of important. Yeah.
Chuck, what's the next action item we all need to take?
Create the weekly team training agenda checklist.
And then the final checklist.
Create the checklist for when and what you need to do for your accounting.
Create the checklist for when and what?
You need to do your accounting.
So you got to do that. Now, if you do that, my babies, you're going to have a lot of success. I'm telling you, if you do that, my babies, we're all going to have some success. We're all going to be blessed. We're all going to make a lot of money. We're all going to be great. Once you know what to do, but you choose not to do it, there's a bigger problem there.
Right. And one thing I've seen a lot is the previous quote that we read, the one right before, was that on the business owners a lot of time, if you're not training your team up enough to understand the protocols and the processes, writing out some crazy 27-page checklist is not going to help them. It's going to put them off even more. So you've got to take time, schedule time to create the checklist and get 2% better. Always, always, always making them better.
If you refuse to embrace the power of a checklist, you're just going to lose.
True.
And if you're somebody who is secular in nature and you don't like Bible quotes that would yell at you, or I feel like I have to be the mouthpiece of the Bible today, then you just read the Checklist Manifesto and you can read about all the people dying all around the world, planes crashing, things messing up as a result of bridges collapsing as a result of people not using checklists. Or if you prefer to go to the Bible as your source of wisdom, Proverbs 10:4 says, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand and refusing to use the checklist F's." No, it says, "He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich." Also, the Bible chimes in to say, 1 Timothy 5:8, "Anyone who does not provide for the relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Thrive Nation, we want to help you. But we can't help you unless we get a chance to know you. Go to thrivetimeshow.com today, and there you're going to find all of the archive podcasts, a place where you can book your tickets to the next in-person Thrive Time Show workshop. You find the one-on-one business coaching and a video library with thousands and thousands of video versions of these podcasts and other trainings with celebrities and millionaire mentors, so you can learn from mentors and not mistakes.
Oh, yes.
And now, without any further ado, we like to end the show with a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.